and I want to welcome you guys to the Creatives Roundtable. We call them CR60s. I'm your host, Nancy Russo. For those of you who are new here, the Creatives Roundtable is an accountability group and creative community that meets monthly in online groups of 6 people to help you with the business side of your creative business by breaking into your goals into bite-sized tasks that are manageable, talking through hot topics, and getting feedback from one another. We have accountability groups as well as a closed Slack community. This is where conversations take place about work events, questions and answers, like what printer do you recommend, what color are your office walls, I'm too busy, can you take this job, etc. Once a month, we have these CR 60-minute events with special speakers, which are free to our accountability group members and 50% off for our Slack members. You're welcome to take a look and join us. While I'm doing the rest of the introduction, please put your LinkedIn URL, including HTTPS, so people can click on it, in the chat. Our upcoming events in March are a LinkedIn strategy for a winning business. In April, why you need a genuine personality brand. In May, how TikTok and short form video can elevate your business. In June, 3 steps to uncomplicate your marketing and attract more dream customers. In July, Canva for Creative Cloud users. We also have the rest of the year, but I'll stop there. You'll be getting emails to attend because of your attendance today. You can always opt out if you want. We love for our attendees to keep their videos on to support our presenter. And our presenter is Heather Willems. I first learned of Heather at a marketing retreat where we used her book, Draw Your Big Idea, as one of the activities to pull things from the recesses of our minds. Then I was introduced to her by Madeline, who's here today, or reintroduced, and I was excited to invite her to present. Heather founded Two Line Studios to help organizations unleash their creative group genius to solve some of their toughest problems. For over a decade, she's been collaborating with executive leaders and Fortune 100 brands such as Disney, FedEx, and Google to find clarity through creativity. In both online and offline, through designing and facilitating workshops, visual note-taking, masterclasses, and one-on-one coaching. The Today Show, MSNBC, Forbes, and Mashable have featured Heather's work and understanding the value of finding clarity through creativity. Take it away, Heather.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for having me here. And thank you all for coming today. I'm super excited to chat with all of you today. To chat with y'all today and really look at how we're pivoting at this very memorable time in our history of the world, and more so like how we can stand out in the crowd by looking at what our strengths, looking really inward at our strengths. So forgive me as I navigate here to show you the screen, but let's see, here we go. All right, so pivoting our future. So I wanted to just hear from folks. Can a few people just jump out and share what their name is, where they're from, and what they wanted to be when they grew up, and how that showed up in their life, how that's showing up in their life?
I'll go.
I'm happy to go.
Oh, hi, I'm Amy Gorick. I am based in Norwalk, Connecticut. I think from a young age, I was always interested in art. I guess I'm a graphic designer, so it did influence me. But I remember at a young age, oh my God, I was so into Garfield. And I think it was in middle school, I made this mosaic, tile thing of Garfield with gravel. And my mom used to put my work up all over the house, and I just loved seeing it, and I was proud of it. So I think I naturally became a graphic designer. I'm just thankful I gravitated toward that. Awesome. The other thing I wanted to do was work with animals, and I have 2 dogs, so.
There you go. That's how it shows up. Well, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into that. Jabali, I heard you kind of jump in. You wanted to be a mime.
Yes, which works perfectly on Zoom because I'm trapped in this box. always wanted to be a mime. Jabali, I'm in Brooklyn now. I'm an educator, and I think the through line has been my interest in mime when I'm performing, when I'm in front of people. I think I'm very interested in the exchange of emotion. So I was always struck by how minimally expressive a mime could be while also captivating an audience. I think that plays out when I'm on stage or facilitating or teaching. I just talk a lot more than Marceau Marceau.
Awesome. Thank you. Eric McNulty, welcome, welcome. Let's have one more person jump in. Name, where you're from, and what you wanted to be when you grew up.
I'll jump in. I'm
Yay.
Yali. I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was growing up, and I took one fashion design course, learned how to sew. But what I realized was I was interested in so many other types of art along the way. And it finally came back into my life about a year ago. And I started painting my old corporate clothes. I was designing my own clothes in paint.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, all three of you, Amy, Yael, and Jabali. Everybody's going to have a chance to share more, and we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into that. But what I'm, thinking about, why we're all coming together today, and of course, we're looking at our strengths, but really like the deeper meaning, when I kind of like started to dive deeper into the purpose of this session, it really came to it's about what's exciting to me about this session for all of you is to draw out our strengths, the strengths that give us the confidence to stand in the very best version of ourselves. So that's what we're going to be doing for the next 90 minutes. FYI, if you don't have pen and a paper, you're going to really want to have that, because we're going to be drawing and sketching and really pulling out the best versions of ourselves. And we're going to kind of dive into 3 specific areas. And I thought what a great way to kind of give a little intro and demo for the work is to introduce myself in this way. So we're going to look at how I define strengths is basically in 3 areas. It's your gifts, the things that you were really good at when you were a little kid. People have always said, wow, I wish I could do that like you do. The things that you absolutely love that make you light up, that you would do for free. And then the skills that are behind it. It's like where you've dedicated your time, your 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell would say. So as a little bit of an intro, Nancy, thank you so much for the more like bio info. But one thing that I was always really good at when I was young, or something that is carried through into my life, is that I feel like I'm really good at creating something from nothing. My mom tells a story about when I was 8 years old, I got rid of all of my toys, and she's like, oh yeah, right, you're gonna get rid of your toys. So she put them down in the closet and in the basement, and I never picked them up again, because I was so excited to be drawing up my own stories, to be writing stories and telling stories. And another thing was like to get people excited about ideas. There's another story from my past where I decided that I was going to throw a play. So I was going to put on a performance. And so I gathered all of the kids from the neighborhood, and we were going to do Peter Pan. So I scripted it, I directed it, I did the marketing, I got all of the people in the neighborhood to come and watch this show that, I put together maybe an hour or 2, with all the neighborhood kids. But as I look back on it now, I was just like, oh, that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial endeavor. Was that performance that I did with all the neighborhood kids on our front lawn. And what has always just lit me up, where I just completely lose track of time, is when I'm drawing. And it's either when I'm doing my fine art that I went to college for, I have an MFA in fine art, or like drawing these slides. It's just like whatever it is, I just can completely get lost in drawing and creating and making art. And so much so, what I also really love to apply it is, Nancy mentioned my book, Draw Your Big Idea. It's all, it's basically a book on coaching. It's work that I created when I was working with many of the Fortune 100 companies around the world in their strategy sessions. So there's a couple graphic facilitators on here. Yay, I'm so excited you're here. And as you know, our job is kind of to go into a business setting and help them think creatively, like get outside, help them to think outside of the box. And how I would do that is helping people to draw their big ideas. And we're going to do a lot of that today. Coaching, and it takes on the form of coaching. Yeah, so some of the other areas where I, specifically around the strengths work, I was thinking like, oh, where did this really come into play in my life the most? And it was when I was running the agency that I founded. I ran an agency called Image Think for 10 years, recently sold it. But one of the things that gave me the most pride in running that company, not only working with the organizations and leaders around the world, but working with my team and really helping them to step into their own, to like really help them focus on the strengths that they had versus the weaknesses that they felt they needed to overcome, and just really to help them shine. Because I knew as a business owner, if they were doing something that they felt strong in and they were nurturing the things that naturally came to them as strengths, things that they loved, that they were going to be more focused. They were going to be able to prioritize that in, those activities that were tied to their strengths. And ultimately, the work would get done in a much more meaningful and powerful way. So that's a little bit about me and how using my strengths as a way to that I really can feel strongly in what I'm doing and feel like confident, show up as my best self. So enough about me. Hopefully that was, you know what? I want to take you through the agenda real quick. So you know where we are, what we're doing today. So like I said, we're going to kick it off in just a hot second, doing some drawing exercises to get us warmed up. Then of course, we're going to dive into our gifts. We're going to look at the things that you all love in your life, the skills where you've really dedicated a lot of time and focus. And then we are together going to make a commitment to nurture those strengths, setting aside our weaknesses so we can all pivot into the future, whatever that might be for you. It could be in your personal life, it could be in your professional life, whatever that means for you. We're going to go through that together, and we're going to be drawing, we're going to be writing, working in small groups, and hopefully having a lot of fun while we're doing it. So Madeline introduced me to this amazing friend and collaborator, Gary Ware. You'll hear a little bit more about him in a bit, but he is an improv actor who also works in businesses. And we were talking about the agreements, improv agreements, and how it applies to both improv when you're in theater, but also in graphic facilitation and graphic recording when you're working with clients, but also in this wonderful Zoom workshop environment. So I would love to invite all of us to agree to these 5 elements for the next 90 minutes, next 75 minutes or so. So being present, you're all so present already, wonderful. Building on ideas, the idea of saying yes and let's do that. Understanding that there are no mistakes in any of the work that you're doing today. There is no mistakes. There's only gifts and discovery of what you're going to come upon. I invite you to be spontaneous and embrace some uncertainty. You might not, you most likely won't have enough time to finish everything that we're going to start off doing today, and that's okay, because we're going to work with what we've got and we're going to embrace that uncertainty. And most of all, please, no judgment for the others that are here with us today, and no judgment for ourselves, because we really want to stand in that confidence and thrive here. Does that sound good? Can you get behind that? Thumbs up? Yeah! Awesome. Very good. Da, da, da. All right, so, oops, pretend you didn't see that. Never mind, the man behind the screen. So now is the time for you to, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, or some variation of that, I would like you to, we're going to get you drawing right away. Enough talking, more drawing. So make a mark on that page in front of you. Take out your pen, just make a mark. Anything, just a squiggle. Something that is completely nonsensical. Make a little mark. Do it now. All right, you're done. So we're done. So now you have something that is completely meaningless. And I want you to look at it and turn it into something else. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. We're going to listen to some music. I'm going to let you doodle and draw and just create that nonsensical mark into something that has meaning of some sort. I'm going to put on some zenny music and let you go at it. We've got about 30 seconds left just to transform that meaningless mark into something that has some sort of significance. All right, so start making your last little dots, squiggles, shading, whatever have you. And you can stop. So now looking at what you've created, give it a title. All right. And can we get everybody to, can we hold them up so we can see what everybody's done? Ooh, wow. Look at these masterpieces. Nice. What do you have, Erin? Oh my goodness, of course. Wonderful. Okay. Who would like to, can somebody else share that didn't already share, like what you, how about like any ahas that you took away from that?
I have an aha. I ended up drawing a little skateboarding figure, which is an old part of my DNA. I'm 47 now, and that's going back to like being a 13-year-old. And I entitled it Flight and Fight. But there's a lot of energy associated with that sort of moment when I realized that that I could do that. Like it represented freedom. To me, it's like a horse or a motorbike or just a newfound capacity. So it's fun. It's like, to me, it's like a flow state, not unlike a lot of what we're talking about is when you discover your flow state, something that it's a joy to do and that you could do at length.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Can I get one more person to share just a sentence or two to keep things going? Anybody else?
I'll share.
All right, thanks.
So I had drawn just a loop, and I turned it into a face. Um,
Nice.
and I've been fussing with my glasses for days, and so I just made one eye open and one eye closed. Just named it Curly Face Winking.
Curly face waking. I love it.
I don't have curly hair anymore, but I used to.
Interesting. Interesting. We're both two people diving into their pasts. Well, I love doing this exercise, and the reason why I know there's a lot of facilitators and leaders in this session, and this is a gift that you can bring to your teams before a brainstorming session. And what it does is it kind of starts to unlock that creativity. It gets us all kind of vibrating on the same, vibrating on the same vibration, but we're all kind of like in sync a little bit, and it takes us out of our whatever we were doing, busy work we had going on. It brings us into the present. And there's actually an MIT study that was done that they on multitasking, and they realized that you can't be drawing and or writing and simultaneously worrying about something else. Like our brains just don't function that way. So by putting pen to paper, you kind of take yourself out of that fight or flight mode and start to look at things from a different perspective. So keeping with that, I'd like you to take a different piece of paper and start drawing a picture of yourself, like a self-portrait from when you were age 10. And so if you have a hard time remembering what you looked like or what your experience of yourself as age 10, you can choose a specific moment that happened to you when you were 10 years old, and just start doodling and drawing. A very good friend of mine named Sarah Walco, she says she's a art director at the New Jersey Center of Arts, but she likes to say that art is not a thing, it's a way. And it's a way of processing information. It's a way of accessing different parts of yourself, and it's a way of healing in her case. So just start doodling that, and I'm going to ask you a few questions as you draw. All right, so drawing yourself at age 10. So what did you love to do at age 10? What were some of the things that you absolutely loved to do? What came easily to you when you were 10 years old? Something you didn't even have to think about. You're just like automatically really good at it. Where do you see that showing up in your life today? Does that thing that you did really well when you were 10 years old like show up? Maybe it is skateboarding. Maybe you're still a great skateboarder at age 47. Who knows? How does that show up? And what are areas of your life where, and it could be when you were 10 or it could be now, where people say, wow, man, I wish that I could be as good. I wish that I could do that as good as you. Like, you're so good at fill in the blank. I wish I could do that. What are those things? All right, so I'm going to invite you to stop drawing wherever you're at. And now I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to give you, I think I'll give you about 3 minutes right now to write down, what are your natural gifts? What are the things that you're really good at that just come easily to you? What are your natural gifts? I'm gonna give us 3 minutes. I'll bring back the music. Okay, we've got about 1 more minute left. And so the next step of this is going to be to circle three of those top gifts, or if you can summarize what you wrote into 3 succinct gifts that you had. The examples that I gave at the beginning were turning something into nothing, or turning nothing into something, getting people excited, and storytelling. So can you summarize what you're writing into 3 gifts? All right, so wrap that up, come on back. And so now you're going to take, we're going to do a series of breakouts today, and my intention is to have you with the same people each time, so you can start to build on your ideas that you've started. So we're going to dive into breakouts right now. There's going to be 3 people in each breakout. You're each going to have 2 minutes to share your image and what your gifts are with one another. And then we'll give you about 30 seconds warning when we're going to bring you back in. So Nancy, if we can do, have like 6 minutes and then 30 seconds to kind of as a warning,
Okay.
that would be fantabulous.
And we actually have some of the rooms have 4 people. Just
okay. Okay, I'll let you self-manage. So we'll have about 6 minutes, everybody, for the breakouts, and then we'll have you come on back.
Okay, here we go.
So again, we're sharing our image and what our 3 top gifts are. So as we're waiting for everybody to come back, why don't we just in the chat, just give a shout out to your team, like share a thank you, share a gratitude, something you appreciated or that you noticed in your small group.
I think I came in late, Heather, a little bit late to the question, but one thing that was thrilling to me was to hear that somebody else's passions or flow state or gifts are different than mine. That gives me faith that cumulatively we can sort of be greater than the sum of our parts, and that's okay.
Great insight. That's incredible. Awesome. So any other shout outs you have, just type them up in the chat. Some similarities that we heard in our group were around organization and the importance of that.
I know you guys all like to talk. Come on, somebody hop on here. Danielle.
I can get one more.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to contribute right now. I'll wait.
Okay.
No problem. No problem at all. Well,
Nancy?
Do you want us to like share?
You know what, Nancy, why don't you go ahead? What was a takeaway from your group, and then we'll move on to the next bit.
A takeaway as a group, it was just that we're all awesome. So that's a great takeaway. But I think we all translated the exercise in different ways, which I thought was really interesting. Like I was very linear in my thinking and did a bunch of different things and came up with like 3 very strategic, this is what that looks like. And Genevieve was a little more like, oh, this is what I drew and this is me here. And then Yamilka was like, oh, this is like my highlighter image and and then she was all uncomfortable, like, oh, but this is what people say about me, not what I say about myself. So I thought it was really interesting how it served all of us, but in different ways.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was great to be part of the group and to hear what the response was. So now we are going to keep that momentum going, and we are going to move on to, we've identified what our strengths were and our gifts were from a young age and how they translate to today in our work, which is so fascinating to hear. And so now we're going to look at the second part of the strengths, is what we love. And this is the area that it like brings us a lot of excitement. You know, we always hear the phrase like, do what you love and the money will follow. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems more along the lines of like, do what you love and that you're really gifted at, and that you put a lot of work into, put a lot of hours into, and then the money will come if you're lucky and you do a lot of marketing, right? So, but for this section, we're going to really look at like, what is the thing that excites you? I like to think of it as like, what's the thing what would you do for free? What can you get into this state of flow where you lose track of all space and time? And so why this is important is that this is the thing, this is the loves that keeps you motivated. So for instance, I love leading these workshops. Like, it's so much fun for me to whether I'm teaching or I'm sharing from the stage or I'm working with an organization or I'm working with, you know, this kind of intimate group with you today. I love doing it so much. But what I don't love is doing the marketing aspect of it. It's not super fun for me. But knowing that I'm connected to that strength and like the love that I have, it pushes me forward to do enough marketing that you all came, and you know, with Nancy's help too, of course. So anyway, that's just an example of how that love and that excitement kind of motivates us to keep driving forward. So I know you don't have this beautiful template in front of you, but you do have a piece of paper. So either continue with the drawing or write the answers down as I read the questions. And just whatever first comes to mind, whatever you write down is right. Okay, so ready? I'm going to dive in. I'll just read them. So what do you love most in your current work life? What do you love most in your current work life? Second one, what makes you lose track of time? What gets you into that flow state? For me, it's hands down drawing, like every time. What are your hobbies?
You could also read that, what makes you loose, because
Oh, did I spell it? Great. What makes you loose? Apparently, spelling isn't one of my, it's one of my Achilles heels, even with spell check.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Does the lose track of time have to relate to your job, or can it just be something you do that makes you lose track of time?
Lose track of time, whatever it is, doesn't have to be, this is your workshop. You get to have it be whatever you want it to be. What are your hobbies? What are the hobbies? We heard skateboarding come up. We heard drawing. We heard writing, miming, painting on your clothes. What's your hobby? And how can this be applied to your career? Maybe it is your career. How cool is that? Okay, and this is such a good one. Like, what do you love talking about? You know, like after you like leave a party, you're like, oh my God. Okay, this is an insight to me. I'm like, I leave a party, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that I talked about like personal development for that long to that person. But like, what is the thing that you can just talk about forever and you never get tired of it? My husband talks about movies. Like, he could talk about them all day long. And it's great because then I don't have to see them. And then, you know, what would you do for free? It's a good question too. All right, so whatever you have written down is right. So now take a look at what you've jotted down on the piece of paper and see if there are anything that repeats. If you've, it could be literally the same word. It could be, I know there's like graphic facilitators in our group today, good listeners. Nadine was saying that she's a great listener. When you start hearing people say like, oh, I just love like telling stories, or I love, coaching people. Like maybe that is I love leading workshops. Maybe you're a good teacher. Like how would you synthesize some of those things? So are there 3 big ideas that you can pull out of what you've jotted down from these prompts? Cool, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And again, this section, we're just kind of cruising through. So I just wanna hear, what are some things that stood out to you? Did anything take you by surprise from the things that you jotted down? Yeah, Eric. Anything
So
you guys were-
it was way too easy to think of the things I would do for free.
Take a note, everybody.
Yeah. I got to stop doing things for free. But yeah, that was the real thing that jumped out as a surprise to me.
I'm going to go right after that because I actually have had a hard time thinking of things that I want to do for free, because when I started as a freelancer, I picked up a lot of free projects, and it felt like I was just like my boundaries were really crossed, and I had to figure out how to value my work. And I figured that out for the last 3 years. And then I finally just took on my first free project again. And I'm glad that I could write that down. Like it felt good that I could do that again because I'm making enough.
Oh, awesome. So good. Let's hear from one other person. Somebody you haven't heard from. Madeline, you've got a nice smile on your face. What are you looking at? Hopefully, hopefully it's something from this exercise.
Yeah, I was just looking at the one word that I wrote down twice was creativity. And I love that I get to use creativity in helping other people and in creating fun tools to help other people communicate, and that it's something that weaves a lot into my work, but also my personal life, and spend a lot of time doing creative projects with my 7-year-old. And it's fun to see creativity both in the eyes of a young child and how it can light up adults, because I think it's something that so often we lose touch with.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Lauren, real quick, like you said, you're having a hard time connecting them to each other. I want to keep us moving along, but I also don't want you to feel left behind. Do you want to call out maybe some of the things you circled, and maybe, or some of the things that are on your page, and maybe as a group we can hear some common elements? Oh, you're muted, sweet.
Sure. So the first question, I said that I loved how helping people follow their dreams. And then the second was design, that sometimes I feel that in design. And then the next one was biking, swimming, hiking, paddleboarding. And then the next one is talking about how the brain works. And then the last one was like relax and travel.
Okay. So helping people to follow their dreams. Sounds like some of your dreams might be involving like being outside in nature, traveling, using your body out in space. And then I heard something about design coming through there. So when you hear me repeat it back to you, do you hear things that kind of where there might be a connection or overlap?
I guess that I'm following my dreams and helping others follow theirs.
That could be something. Yeah, write it down. See if it comes back. See if it comes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes it's so powerful. I think, you know, at my background, of course, I've mentioned it several times as a graphic facilitator, but just even as a coach too, having somebody repeat back to you what you've just said I find it powerful when folks do it for me. All right, so let's dive in to the next bit. Do a little, share this slide with you here. So the next bit is looking at the skills, right? So I'm making an assumption that we're all familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's 1,000 hours. And so, you know, what he was saying is like, there's the magic lies in the 1,000 hours, and that's where greatness is. And so what he really meant is that people aren't born geniuses. You have to work really hard at developing a skill, right? So in this section, this is about your skills. So again, you can choose to draw, you can choose to write down ideas, you know, triggered from the visual prompts that you have in front of you. And I'll go ahead and just read these out for you, okay? And you can jot down whatever comes to mind. So, what was your educational focus? What did you study in? What did you enjoy studying in high school? What did you do in college? Did you get a master's degree or a PhD? What was your educational focus? Jot that down. What jobs were you exposed to as I'm gonna go counterclockwise. We're just gonna be unpredictable, going counterclockwise here. So what jobs were you exposed to as a child? What did your mom and dad do, or who are, you know, your caregivers that were taking care of you? Like, what did they do for a living? Was there somebody that was really influential in your life? You know, what careers were you exposed to at a young age? Kind of jumping around, I'm gonna follow that up with what, you know, do you have any mentors, or did you have any mentors? What did those mentors do? And doing this exercise, I looked at my mentors who I had like officially called my mentors, and one was a college professor in art and fine art, and the other was a serial entrepreneur. So I was like, oh, that makes sense for me personally. Next question. What do you like to learn in your spare time? You know, are you listening to podcasts? Are you reading a book? You know, are there movies that you're watching? Going out, looking, you know, at museums, you know, you know, getting some culture from your neighborhood or your city, wherever you're at. You're learning about nature when you're on those hikes and on those trails. What is a training you have taken? What other trainings have you done? So this is a training. We're doing a training right now. We're doing a training on reflecting and looking at our strengths as a personal and professional development exercise. What other trainings have you done where you've dedicated some time and effort? Whatever you write down is right. All right, and then this one, remember how I said you're gonna be spontaneous and you're gonna kind of go with the flow because you're not gonna have enough time to do everything? This is one of those questions. But the challenge is to write out all the jobs you've ever had and then label the skill that you learned from that job. So I used to work in a coffee shop. What was the skill that I learned from that? I learned to like build relationships and memorize people's orders. So when they came in, they had their coffee waiting there, and I learned from that relationships are how you make tips. It's not about the coffee that you serve, it's about the relationship you have with people. So it's something that's definitely carried through. All right, so I'm going to give you a few minutes again to look at what you've jotted down in these different categories. Looking at the piece of paper you have in front of you, are there things that repeat? Are there things that the same thing that you've said in different ways? Are there ones that just jump off the page and you're like, oh my gosh, obviously this is one of my greatest skills that I have, where I've spent my 10,000 hours? Like using myself as an example, I wrote down, graphic facilitation is one. I've been doing that for, I don't even want to count anymore, like 15 or 16 years. Building up $1 million business or multi-million dollar business is a skill that I acquired, and doing that over 10 years, seeing that show up, where my parents were entrepreneurs and then my mentors were entrepreneurs. So it became very obvious to me that I would do that on my own. I had teaching as well. So what kind of overlaps? I'll be quiet for a second. So I'll give you another 10 seconds or so to kind of finalize your thoughts. And let's take a moment, come on back. I'm gonna just call out on some people who I haven't heard from yet, if that's okay. And if you don't want to go, you can just say pass, no biggie. But Krista Thompson, we haven't heard from you. Did you have any big ahas or anything jump out to you that was a surprise in this section?
One of the things I just hadn't thought about for a long time was with what jobs were you exposed to as a child?
Yeah.
And the fact that I worked in a library, like it just, because one of the things I talked about before, I love learning and I love books. And that was a whole big memory from being 10 and whatever. And I thought, oh, it just hadn't occurred to me that I'd had a job that really emphasized that. But now that I think about it, it's stayed with me. So I don't know, that was just an interesting aha moment.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Yamilka, we haven't heard from you yet.
Sure thing. I didn't realize that I was actually doing what I wanted to do, which is kind of weird. So I, in junior high school, I was interested in media, and in college, I was I was a DJ for the school radio station. And I did some stuff with TV in school. I focused I did communications, but I didn't know how I was supposed to sort of tie all of that together. And for anyone who knows me, they know that I'm doing exactly that. And interestingly enough, an aha moment was that I was like, when you said entrepreneur, I thought, oh, that's interesting, because my mom, my sister, my brother, and my husband are all entrepreneurs. So that's sort of like, just duh, hello. So because I'm thinking I don't have any mentors, or the mentors I have were not, it was sort of like a stockbroker I had once. And although I do like the conversation about finance and I can talk about it, I like the conversation. I was just like, but I don't know how they influence me. Meanwhile, my family are all entrepreneurs, and, so this helped me sort of make sense of all of that and just answering all the questions,
Right. Awesome. Thank you for that comment. And it also leads me to say, you know, when we're working with organizations, or when I'm working with organizations, these exercises are fantastic to do with teams that you have. So, you know, if you don't have a team, but you have your family, you can ask them for a 360 feedback. So right now we're just assessing ourselves, but we can take these questions to our family. We can take these questions to other team members that we work with, people who know you. Like Yamilka, you said, like, if you know me well, you'd be able to say this. You know, ask them these questions like, oh, what do you think? What do you see in my strength, you know, my strengths? So it's a cool exercise. You shift the questions slightly, and you can get 360 feedback. Really great way to learn more about your team members and your colleagues. Okay, guys, this is the tough part. Bringing it all together. So we're going to bring it all together. So just for a second, think of somebody, like, imagine a person that you know who is just crushing it in their life. Like they're just winning in their life at what they're doing. They're really happy. If you think about it, chances are that they are using their gifts, that they're innate gifts. They are doing something that they absolutely love and bringing that into different aspects of their life. And they're also like working with their skills that they've developed over the years. So, you know, thinking of this person, I have one of my best friends in mind. His name is Chris. And like, he's so great at making decisions that are aligned with like his true self. The work that he does like has an incredible impact, and he's always excited about sharing what he's doing. And his productivity is something to seriously be envied. But I believe it's because he is very clear on able to prioritize what he's doing. He's able to get into that state of flow. So he's creating a lot of impact. That decision making is really applied to like his training and experiences that he has. He also has the benefit of he's built up a team where he can also have people do the work that are complement his weaknesses, right? So we're going to create this sense of confidence and joy for ourselves right now by looking at these 3 different areas and trying to find the space where it overlaps. So again, you know, if you want to go ahead, do the Venn diagram thing that I've got going on, feel free to draw that out on your own. And kind of write in there, what are your 3 gifts that you jotted down from when you were a child, or, you know, what you've always been good at throughout your whole life. Go ahead, write down, like, what are the 3 top things that rose to the top that you loved? And you know, what are some of those skills that you have that you've just really put in the time to developing for yourself? And Lauren, you know, if you're putting in there that you love, you know, it's like the love of nature and help, you know, maybe it's inspiring others to be their best self, you know, by being your best self. Like maybe that's what you've got there. Who knows? You get to choose. So the idea with this, and, you know, I was thinking, we're talking about pivoting. I literally thought about pivoting your business or where you are in your career due to all of the uncertainty that's been brought to us by this beloved global pandemic that we're all in. But you can also think of it as like, how do these, you know, if you were to summarize it into three overall strengths, you know, how would you use those to pivot? So when I did this again, just using myself as a guinea pig and an example, I wrote down it was graphic facilitation, more so than graphic recording, but like using visuals and drawings to help people to solve problems as a graphic facilitator, visual strategist. I wrote down an entrepreneur. And then I also wrote down a coach, because I felt that teaching element, whether it's on stage as a keynote or doing a workshop or, coaching somebody one-on-one, that teaching element is something that's really valuable to me. And I think that there definitely is a place, there's a place in the market for that. And how okay, so I'll be quiet for a second. So actually I'm going to send you all back into your breakouts. Because I always find that this is kind of the challenging part, is when you bring it all together, and then you start to think like, okay, so I've got this love of nature, like I'm inspiring others by being in nature. Skateboarding is something that I'm really good at. And maybe drawing is another element. Like, how the heck does that apply to the marketplace? Well, this is the time when you all get to support one another in the breakouts. So what I'd like you to do, everybody, you're going to go into the breakouts. You're going to have 2 minutes per person to just kind of say, these are my 3 strengths that I've distilled from my Venn diagram. And this is, you can say, this is where I think it fits into the marketplace. And you'll have about a minute to respond. And
because a couple of people had to leave early, I've moved a few people around.
Okay, that's great.
So we're gonna do it now.
Yep, thank you. Welcome back, everybody. How was that? Helpful? Thumbs up? Yeah, super good. Awesome. So I would like to let's just hear from 2 people, because I want to make sure we get through. And I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'll just call out Amy. What was some a takeaway that you got from your group, like help that you got from your group?
I think the takeaway was support, and we could sort of relate to each other. Sorry, my dog. I have a design background, but I think one of the things that we had in common was like our experience in service and empathy, and how that translates into what we do now.
Oh, cool. Very good. Veronique, thank you. Amy, thank you. What was an aha or a takeaway from this last breakout group, where you can even give a shout out to one of your team members?
Well, I realized I was at the good place, and then I just have to go more and more online for my courses.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a great transition to the next point. Thank you so much. So the next part that I'm going to take you through is, this might be familiar to you guys. I think this is like, when we're working in leadership, we're working with teams, this is something that we always ask other people to do, but it's always a good reminder. So in this, it's about making commitments and carving out that time for yourself. So because you made it this far into the session, I'm assuming that you are good with committing to choosing your strengths, choosing to nurture your strengths over your weaknesses. So as a reminder, anytime you're going to change a habit or change a way of being, we need to make a commitment to it. So commit right now. I want you all to commit to choosing at least one strength and committing to putting some time into that, to nurturing that strength. So commit to a time investment. 2, go ahead, block it out on your calendar, because if you're like me, if it's not on your calendar, it is not happening. Give yourself that gift. Put it on your calendar. Maybe it's a 2-hour block on a Friday afternoon. Maybe it's 5 minutes after you brush your teeth in the morning. Whatever it is, really block it out and schedule that time to nurture yourself. Fourth thing, collect your resources. Hey, if you're learning a new skill, you've got to like have the resources. So you have to have everything available to you when you're ready to learn. So one of the things that I'm committing to, I'm going to pivot, I'm declaring it. I feel a little nervous saying this. I'm committing to pivoting away from doing graphic facilitation full-time where my hand is actually doing it and dedicating more time to doing workshops like these because I freaking love it. So one of the commitments is I'm going to invest in like reading 12 books that are about playing on purpose or leading creative meetings, doing these kind of incredible Zoom sessions, or will be in real life soon. But so I'm going to collect those 12 books. I'm just going to have them in my Audibles or in my Amazon file so I can grab them whenever I need them. So then the fourth thing is commit to deliver. Eric and I talk about this a lot, is the power of having an accountability partner. If you don't have an accountability partner, hey, guess what? This is a great place to find one. Hint, hint, hint. And then follow up on your schedule. Like you've done all the time, you've put the time and effort into making the commitment. Give yourself the gift of actually honoring that and following your schedule. So we've been doing everything visually here. You've been drawing up pictures when you're 10 years old. You've been, maybe you created a Venn diagram. Maybe you've had some other illustrations that go along with it. Whatever it is, what's very valuable is to have that commitment, that goal that you have, and make it visible. Maybe you just take that, actually, you know what? Great idea, Heather, that you just had, but you have done it a million times. But go ahead and go back to that picture that you created at the beginning, that squiggle exercise that you created where you labeled it, and write down, it can be 1 to 3 strengths that you're going to commit to nurturing. It could be for the year, it could be in the next month, but go ahead and write down 3 strengths that you're going to commit to nurturing, like onto that page. So that will become your visual reminder, your icon, if you're brave enough, your tattoo to remind you that you are committing to standing in your strength and nurturing the thing that sets you apart. So along with my commitments, one of the I'm going to, we'll have everybody hold up their sign in a second, but one of the things that I'm committing to is doing more of these workshops. Nancy and I were chatting about it when you guys are in the breakout, of doing more of these kind of workshops. And I'm very excited to invite you all to the next workshop that I'm doing, which is called Draw Your Future. It's moving from uncertainty into possibility. It's with my great collaborative partner that I met through Madeline. His name is Gary Ware, and we're going to be doing it at South by Southwest. I don't have the details for it yet, but you can jump over to twolinestudios.com to find out more information and like check in on the other workshops that I'm doing, or if this would be of interest to bringing to another organization, give me a shout out. Super happy to do that and make that commitment to all of you.
And when you have the South by Southwest info, we can email everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Super excited about it.
Sure. And thank you so much. This was really fun.
Yeah, well, we're not quite done yet. I mean, we do have 2 minutes left. So I just wanted to, first of all, like, let's go into gallery mode. If you put into the grid view, and just, if everybody can like hold up their sign, just to show what their commitments are. Mine's blank, so I was chatting away. But if you want to hold up your sign of like, so this is our visual commitment that we're making to one another for this time. Awesome, I love it. So make sure you create that time for yourself. And I just want to, take the last few minutes to do a summary here. Like we started out this session, we started out this session talking about what our purpose was. And it's really to draw out the strengths that give us the confidence to stand in the very best version of ourselves. Focusing on those strengths versus our weaknesses are going to help us to, it's going to help us to make better decisions. It's help us to focus, to prioritize our time. So we're really going to be doing something that we love. We're going to be focusing in on the gifts that are innately born and given to us. And we're also going to be honoring all of the skills that we've developed over the course of our lifetime and that we can continue to nourish. I just want to say I'm so grateful that all of you spent this time today together. And I'd like to invite you to give a shout out in the chat. Or, you know what, let's say how you're feeling right now. It's your closing thought. If you could just put a closing thought into the chat in our last minute that we have here. Inspired, feeling empowered, energized, clear, affirmed. Oh my gosh, curious. Love all of that. And I just want to leave you with, along with my gratitude, but also with this beautiful quote. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So I'd like to send you off into your day with the energy and excitement, the curiosity, the affirmation, and for me, gratitude. So thank you all so very much.
Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So
Thank you
good
so
to
much.
see all of you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks, Nadine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veronique.